Hey everybody, I have a thought that I don't think will take too long, but before I get into it, I'll just explain a little bit. So if you're anything like me, when you get a free day, you feel like you have to fill it completely full of like work, and you have to clean, you have to cook, you have to catch up on schoolwork if you're in school, or catch up on work from actual work. So today I had a few Zoom meetings that were canceled, and so I basically don't have to do anything for my internship or for school today, which is unusual because normally I'm doing like 4 hours of classes and 5 hours of internship a day. But this time I don't have to. And Tuesday is the only day that I don't physically have to go to school. And so I was like, okay, well, I have a free day, so I'm going to clean. I'm going to catch up on things I need to do for my internship. I'm going to catch up on school. So I woke up and I cleaned the bathroom. I swept the living room. I put the dishes in the dishwasher. I did a little bit of laundry. And then I was like, okay, I'll take an hour. I'll take a break. And then I'll immediately jump back in and I'll catch up on soap notes and all this other stuff that I need to do. And I had only scheduled like 1 hour break for me for the entire day, which is really not a good thing, besides eating, of course. And during my little break I was taking, obviously I got on Instagram, and then I was attacked. Someone had shared a quote, and it says, "When work is an idol, rest feels like a sin." And this is by Josh Taiz. But that obviously got to me because I often don't prioritize resting, and I think that it's a waste of time for me because I need to constantly be doing something, constantly need to be working for the future. And I think we all kind of get in that way sometimes. I think we all have it's not really in our nature to just sit around and not do something. Especially if you're kind of like a planner like me, you have to have everything lined out and you have to do it at a certain time. You have a deadline. So what even is rest? So rest is often referred to throughout the Bible, throughout the entire Bible, constantly almost. But it begins during the creation week in Genesis 2:2-2. So in Genesis 2:2, it says that God rested from all the work which he had made. And this isn't God resting because he's physically exhausted or he just wants to take a nap, because that's not how that works with him. This is him setting an example for people who are made in his image to follow. So for more background on that whole idea, you can look at Exodus 20:8-11 and Deuteronomy 5:12-14. I would read them, but it would take a while. So going back to the quotes, so if work becomes an idol, rest feels like sin. So once again, what's an idol? We need to kind of go over the basics. So an idol is basically anything that you place above God. So in very basic terms, it's anything you choose to spend time with over spending time with God. So for example, let's say you had 3 hours of free time, and that's all you had the entire day. So instead of taking at least one of those hours and praying and reading and doing whatever it is that you normally do in your time with God, you use all 3 hours to be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or a streaming service that you really like, watching a bunch of movies or fishing, or just anything and you take up all 3 of those hours with that instead of making at least, maybe one of them time with God. So choosing to spend time with that over time with God and then just not spending any time with God makes it an idol. So how does work specifically become an idol? Now, that sounds really confusing because work is a good thing. It gives you money if it's like a physical job, or if it's a job. It kind of keeps us in a pattern so that we can, go throughout our day and we can not be confused and keep doing what we're doing. And we can work for the kingdom. So work is a good thing, but it also can become an idol. I know that I don't really think of it that way sometimes, and I know a lot of people probably don't really think about how work can become an idol. And Jimmy Lovin recently preached to us about this, that sometimes it can be so easy to do stuff for Jesus Christ than to pray. So we can find ourselves even doing kingdom work more than we actually spend time with God. So work becomes an idol, one, when we refuse to enter into the rest God has for us. So we are saying, okay, I know that you have this rest for me, and I know that you want me to rest, and you don't want me to be constantly working and burning myself out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Number two, when we refuse to trust that God will keep us during our time of rest, thus us avoiding rest and only working. So we get anxious and we're like, I don't know if I do this rest, well, how am I going to get this done? Or how am I going to get this done? Or what if the world just stops spinning while I'm resting, So refusing to kind of believe that God can keep you while you're resting leads to work becoming an idol, because once again, we avoid the rest and then we just work. And then 3, when we do more work, sometimes even kingdom work, more than spending time with him. So that kind of goes back to the basic idea of what an idol is. We start spending more time working, whether that's, like I said, kingdom work or just normal job work or school work or anything like that. So our rest is found in Christ, and that's because he offers this peace that we couldn't even understand. It passes all understanding. That's how the scripture explains it. So Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." So we know from that verse alone, we're not even thinking about all the other verses that agree with this. We know from this verse that he will give us rest. So our rest can come from him, and ultimate rest comes from him. 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you." That means, letting him have all your worries and your doubts and your fears and anything else you can possibly think of, and just like resting in his presence instead of being like I am and worrying about like what's gonna happen next and where am I going, what's my next step. So instead of doing all of that, just resting and not worrying about that. So we find complete rest in him. Ultimate and complete rest comes from him and him alone. We can't find it within ourselves. We can't find it in the world. We can't find it in other people. We find it through him. And we don't get to experience the fullness of rest without him. So how? At ladies' conference, she was explained, the Ginger Labatt was explained as a how person, and I found myself realizing that I am also kind of a how person. So how do we find rest in the Lord? So Psalm 37:7 talks about, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices." Okay, so how do we rest in the Lord? How do we wait patiently before him? How do we do these things? So 1, we just believe simply in the Lord. That's if you believe in him, you can enter into his rest. And that's what it says in Hebrews 4:1-3, which I will actually read this time. It says, "Therefore, while the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us fear lest any of you should seem to have failed to reach it. For good news came to us as to them, but the message they heard did not benefit them because they were not united by faith with those who listened. For we who have believed enter that rest, as he has said, 'As I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest,' although his works were finished from the foundation of the world." So right there it says, "For we who have believed enter the rest." So once we believe, we can enter the rest. So we have that verification and that validation, like we can enter the rest. So 2, take everything, all your doubts, your fears, your worries, your exhaustion, your physical or mental or spiritual exhaustion. We take all of that to God in prayer. So we loop back to 1 Peter 5:7, and it says, "Casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you." So we can rest in the Lord by believing in him, because believing in him helps us realize that like he is in control and I don't have to worry and I can just rest and I don't have to constantly be working or constantly be fretting about things. And then number 2, we can take all of those frets and those worries that we do have because we're human and we have them. We can take them to God in prayer and talk to him about it and then kind of talk it out with him. And then number 3, we can surrender our hearts to them along with our control, which we don't like doing, but it's best for us. So we surrender our hearts to him and we let him control, or we give him the control, and we recognize that it's always better for him to be in control than for us to be in control. So we give him the reins and we stop trying to steal them. And believing in the Lord, taking everything to him, and surrendering control to him, all 3 of those things work together to help us find rest in God. Because we know it's there, and we know we can get it because we believe in him. We just need to actually live it out and do it. So rest overall isn't a sin when we view it the way that it's supposed to be. So it is a gift from God. And when we view it as a gift from God instead of this burden, if you're someone who really just likes to be productive and you think that resting is not productive, which it is, but if you don't believe it that way, it's a gift from God. So established all the way back from the beginning in Genesis, it is very apparent that him resting is an example that we should rest. And so we shouldn't always be working, and we shouldn't always be resting either. So we need to view it in moderation, as everything is supposed to be in. We don't need to rest all day, like I said, but we also don't need to work all day either and tire ourselves out and make us, like I said earlier, develop burnout or experience burnout and then not want to do anything again. So everything in moderation is the key of a balanced life. So if you're anything like me, you need to remember that when work is an idol, rest feels like a sin. So rest isn't a sin, but it can feel that way if you let your life become off-balanced and you do more work than you do more resting, and you don't allow yourself to rest because you view it as a burden rather than a gift from God. So overall, just remember, it's okay to rest as long as you have balance and moderation. And it is not a bad thing to rest. It is not a sin, as he pointed out. But anyway, I hope this was a little bit helpful, and I'll probably make a video towards the end of May again. So I'll see you next time.